Hey guys, welcome back to the third episode of this mental health series. And for the last episode, we talk about how do we cultivate more courage to open up our lives for more possibilities. For this episode, we are going to focus on how do we deal with bad days. People with or without skin condition, we all have bad days.
Yes.
But I think for people with skin condition, sometimes it can get very overwhelming. It almost felt like a spiral where when you have one negative thoughts, another one just come up and another one just come up and it just keep coming up and you just feel like, you are drowning in this darkness, right? Do allow me to be very honest with you, right? When I have, these darkest days, I would actually be very overwhelmed by a lot of thoughts in my head.
Sure.
So one thing about my condition, right, for psoriasis, is that psoriasis has no cure.
Okay.
And right now, psoriasis has affected my skin very extensively. And it may also affect my joints as well.
Okay.
If this condition affect my joints, it can be deformed, it can be very, very painful. It's actually called psoriatic arthritis. And some people are actually disabled.
Oh no.
They are actually bedridden because of this condition.
Okay.
Also due to inaccessibility of medications as well.
Okay.
So I worry a lot because this is an incurable condition and I might be disabled one day. I might. Not to say I will, right? And the possibility of it really paralyzed me.
Sure.
And sometimes, because we spend so much time on social media and we tend to just show the good side of social media, I see my friends and my peers having very good life, right? They have very good job and they have a family now and they're just traveling and just a lot of good things on social media. And on some days when I find myself being stuck in the bed, I would just be hit with a wave of grief of, I feel like I'm being left behind in life. And these are the moments where I overthink like, okay, my life looks like this right now. Will I end up also like this when I grow older?
Yeah.
Will I be alone? Will I have a family? Or do I have people who will care for me? Or will I be able to even care for myself?
Sure.
So I guess this is what my spiraling episode looked like, right? I spiral into like this dark hole.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I keep falling and falling. I don't know how to get out of it. So then my question for you is,
Yes.
how do I get out of this, right? I don't want to stay here. I need to go out there and fight for myself.
Yes.
I want to do something, but I can't.
Okay. I think the first thing that we need to do here is that obviously what you're telling me is very far in the future. When you talk about the arthritis, when you talk about am I going to be alone, there's so many factors to that. We don't have an answer for that. You also said it's a might to get the psoriatic arthritis, right? It's not a will, it's not confirmed, right? So I think it's important to take my focus from so far into the future back to the here and now, because I think it's important to be able to hold two extremes at the same time. That could happen to me. It's a possibility based on what you've said, right? But the reality right now is my joints are still fine. So I understand that there is that fear at the back of your mind about that happening, the worst case scenario. But it's always important to come back to the here and now. Is this happening right now?
No lah.
Exactly. And if it's not happening right now, what do I want to do today to make today count?
Okay.
Because I'm not there yet. I don't have the arthritis yet, or whatever worst case scenario. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
So why allow that far future to paralyze me right now when my joints are healthy?
Okay. Good point. I mean, certainly there are a lot of things I can do to prevent the worst case scenario from happening.
Correct.
And honestly, my life is good right now. Yeah, sometimes I forgot there are actually a lot of good things happening in my life right now. and I just focus on the worst case scenario that actually may or may not happen. And there are actually a lot of things I can do to prevent the worst outcome actually.
Yeah.
So then I guess it sounds like I need to live my life, like doing my best to control what I can control.
Yes.
And allow the possibility of the worst outcome to also exist.
Correct, because I think life always has good and bad. It's part of life, good and bad, right? But the point is, if we focus on only the bad, that's not really the most balanced version of you. So we want to be as balanced as possible every single day. I still want to live the best now if I'm feeling good today and there's no flares or there's no aches and pains, to still do the things that I want to do while holding the reality that it could be a possibility that one day I could be, in your words, bedridden. But the point is, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So it's about being as balanced in how I view myself and my situation. And I think also another point is that when you view social media, you see all your friends having this great life. I think it's also important to remind myself that social media is a highlight reel of everybody's best moments, and we are comparing it against when we are in bed feeling the most absolute crap that we have. And again, the most balance is, yes, I have crap days, you don't see their crap days, but it's important to remind myself that I do have my good days.
Yeah. And I think I really like the way you use the word balance.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we see the world as black and white.
Correct.
It's either good or bad, really good or really bad. But actually life happens in balance,
Yes,
right? Like
together.
they are good and they are bad.
Yes.
But we also can, enjoy the good while holding the bad, right?
Exactly
and
that.
Also knowing the bad, but also cultivating joy at the same time.
Yes.
I think that is actually very beautiful, because sometimes I do find myself rejecting the bad side of it. It's like, oh, I don't want to think about the bad side, and I just want to keep focusing on the good side.
Right.
But I think that kind of take away the magic of life in a way.
Correct. Because I mean, you worked for the good days, and you had to go through some bad days to get to the good days. Why would you want to take away the bad days? They led you somewhere anyways.
Yeah, and it made me appreciate my good days even more.
Correct. And I think based off of the living the most balanced version of you, I think it's also important to not be so outcome focused. I think it's important to be process focused, which is something that a lot of us haven't really cultivated. Growing up in school, we're always outcome focused. Okay, you study this amount, you get an A or a
7A.
Yeah.
7A doesn't count.
Or you fail or whatever, right? But real life isn't like that. Real life is about enjoying the moment, or going through the tough moments, really going through the process and really trusting the process, so that you reach the best possible outcome. Because obviously your best possible outcome with struggling with psoriasis is that I hope I'm not bedridden. That's the best possible outcome, right? But I can't control that. That's not within my control. I can do certain things to make sure that doesn't come as soon, but I need to live in the now and enjoy the process that I am making the best effort I can to prevent that from happening so soon.
Yeah, wow, like I think it's very interesting, like outcome focus versus process focus.
Yes.
Honestly, looking back, I mean right now, I'm not exactly where I expect to be at the age of 31, honestly. Like when I was younger, I expect myself to drive big cars, stay in big houses. I used to have very different dreams. Obviously, I haven't achieved all this at this moment, but I compare myself, this version of myself, compared to myself like 10 years ago, I like this version of me. And I think this is a form of success, right? Like, because a lot of people are very obsessed about success, including me, right? So sometimes I do feel like, oh, am I a failure for not achieving all these bigger goals? But at the same time, I forgot that actually I've come so far.
Correct.
Like living with this skin condition and going through days where I literally couldn't get out of bed. And right now, like doing what I do, it took me a while to appreciate the smaller things that I did to get here today.
Yeah.
And that is actually my new version of success.
Exactly. You are redefining success for yourself. You don't have to
Wow.
live success based on what other people define success as.
And I think that is something a lot of people find that is very difficult, right? Like they would expect themselves to achieve a societal level of success. And I think it takes a lot of courage to change that. And I think, Ruth, I just want to say thank you for this reminder, because like for the past few years, actually for my whole life, like having skin condition, I've always been very fixated on fixing myself. And I always think that I need to heal myself so that I would be happy, right? Like, it's like I already given me a condition to be happy.
Right.
As long as you have this skin condition, you will never be happy, right? So I grew up very unhappy. Like, as long as I have this skin condition, I can never be happy. It
Sure.
really felt like that.
Sure.
And I have so many flare-up days where I feel like I'm a failure.
Okay.
And I think this outcome focus versus process focus, it has reminded me that, wow, I've actually gone through so many days of flaring up, and yet here I am, still here I am, right?
Yes.
Having this conversation with you.
Yes.
Like using all these painful moments in my life for a greater good today. And I think that's also success, even though it is not monetary. But I think if I measure my life with courage, I think my courage would be like a billionaire or something, right?
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really amazing that this simple conversation is kind of like reminding us, this
Yeah.
community, that hey guys, you know, healing is not the end goal actually.
Correct.
And I think we all need to give ourselves more credit, right, for going through all the ups and downs for so many years. And yet here we are, still we are fighting and living and breathing. And that itself, it's actually a success. So don't forget that. Like, you know, fall in love with the person that we have become through this process. Even though, yes, we don't meet the society beauty standards, or we don't meet the success meter of society. But you know what? Here we are. And I think that's beautiful. And I think that is actually a success already. So thank you so much, Ruth.
You're welcome.
This conversation felt like kind of like a life jacket, right? For me, when I feel like drowning. And we do have a lot of days where we felt like drowning. And so thank you for giving us this life jacket. I think that's a beautiful metaphor. So yes, so for the next episode, which is also our last episode on our mental health series, we are actually going to talk a little bit about loneliness. So I don't know about you, but I do feel quite lonely on some days. So if you do, don't forget to tune in. See you next week. Bye!